This is a grammar lesson for the 8th standards on the imperative tense. This is the second tense that you'll be doing for this academic year. And then you have a third one to come, which is the future proche. Now, this video is also for the 9th standard students. It is a revision for you of the imperative tense, which you have already done last year. So, the imperative tense is a takeoff from the present tense. Now, what do I mean by takeoff? You have learned the present tense thoroughly, right? The three regular families, and you have the CR, the GR. If you have done the YR, then that also. Then you have the irregular verbs, right? So you have learned all those properly by now. If you have done those well, if you have familiarized yourself very well with those, the imperative tense will not be a problem because it is just a takeoff from there. There are a few modifications to the present tense, and then you get the imperative from the present tense itself. It derives itself from the present tense. Okay. Now, what is the imperative tense? L'impératif in English is the imperative. It's the same thing as it is in English grammar. Imperative is something, it's a sentence which helps us to issue commands, orders, instructions, directives, right? You say go to school, do your homework, shut the door, things like that. You're ordering people. You're saying what you want them to do. You're not saying you shut the door. You're not saying please shut the door, please do your homework. It's not a request. It's not things like that. It's not a simple sentence either. And why is it not a simple sentence? Because there is no subject, right? It's not saying you shut the door or I am going to school. It's nothing like that. There is no subject. So the absence of a subject makes it different from a normal, a simple assertive sentence. Okay. So the defining characteristic of an imperative sentence is that it doesn't have a subject or a person, whatever you would like to call it. Okay. So in a normal sentence, we have the subject, the verb, and then the object. Now, by common logic, if the subject is absent, the sentence will therefore start with the verb. Okay, so that's the second point. Now, for your normal simple present tense, you conjugate the verbs according to 6 people, correct? Je, tu, il, those are the first, second, and third person in the singular. And then you have nous, vous, and il in the plural. So 3 people in the singular, 3 people in the plural makes it 6 persons for the simple present tense for an assertive sentence, a simple sentence. Now, when you're talking about the imperative tense, you do not conjugate for all 6. You conjugate only for 3 persons. Okay? So, in English, when you're talking about the imperative, you say shut the door, do your homework. Now, what is the subject here? There is no subject, but the subject is implied. Okay? When you're saying shut the door, it's obvious you're talking to someone else, which becomes the second person. Supposing a teacher is in a class and says do your homework, she's talking to the entire class. It is implied. She doesn't have to say you do your homework, right? It is understood that she is talking to the kids in the class. So that is where the subject comes in. It is not written, it is absent in the written sentence, but it is implied. Okay? So we have 2 forms of the imperative in English. One is for the singular you and one is for the plural you. So if I am talking to one person and I want to tell them to shut the door, whoever that one person is, I will say shut the door. That is for the singular you. Okay. And if a teacher is talking to the kids in a class and she's saying do your homework, she's talking to a group of yous, right? So that becomes a plural you. Okay. So in French, that would be the tu form is the singular and vous will be the plural. Okay. So those two are the same way we have in English. Now there is a third person, okay, which we conjugate the imperative for in French, which is nous. We do not have the nous form in English. We do not have an imperative for we, but in French we do. Okay. And now when you conjugate the imperative for nous, it changes a little bit. The meaning of the sentence becomes let's shut the door. Let's go to school. Let's do our homework. Okay. You get that meaning. You get that new word introduced in the sentence let's whenever you're conjugating the imperative for nous. Okay. So in that way you have the imperative coming up for 3 persons. That is tu, vous, and nous. There is no imperative for je. There is no imperative for il, the singular and the plural. So 3 subjects only for the imperative. Okay. Now let's compare a simple sentence in English with the imperative sentence. Okay. If I say you shut the door, which becomes a simple sentence because there is a subject there. And if I say just shut the door, okay, the simple sentence is you shut the door. The imperative sentence is shut the door. What is the difference between the two? In the simple sentence, the subject you is present. To make the simple present into an imperative sentence, we just have to delete the subject, right? It's just we are removing that you from the sentence and becoming shut the door. So that is exactly what you have to do. Okay. To form the imperative, you simply have to use the present tense of the verb without the person being mentioned. Okay, so just the way you would frame a simple sentence using the present tense with the subject, it's the same way you have to frame it with the imperative tense, except this time you will not mention the subject. So if you have to say you shut the door in French, it would be tu fermes la porte, right? And if you just want to say shut the door, you have to remove the you. And what is the you in French? It is tu. So you have to remove the tu from sentence, become ferme la porte. Okay? If you want to say go to school, you want to say you go to school. Okay, it is tu vas à l'école. If we want to give the order in the imperative tense, go to school. What have you done? You have removed the you. So same way in French, you remove the tu and become va à l'école. Okay, so that's exactly the way it works. There is one little modification that you have to make in one case, but by and large, you are just using the present tense. Okay, so in order to use the imperative effectively, you have to be thorough with the present tense. So let's take an example of faire. Okay, faire is to do or to make. In this case, it is to make because we're talking about making a cake. Okay, so the simple present tense is tu fais, nous faisons, vous faites. Remember, we're conjugating the imperative only for three people. Okay, tu, nous, and vous. So if you want to say make a cake, you're talking to one person. Okay, you want to say make a cake, you're talking to one person. You say fais un gâteau. With the tu there, it would be tu fais un gâteau, but you're giving an order, so you remove the tu. You fais un gâteau. Okay, so you're talking to a plural. If you're talking to more than one person, you're talking to a vous. Okay, the normal simple sentence will be vous faites un gâteau, right? But now you're making an order. Okay, imperative. You have to remove the vous, delete the you. It will become faites un gâteau, make a cake. Okay, if you want to say let's make a cake, what is a simple sentence? It will be nous faisons un gâteau. We are making a cake. Okay, now to make the imperative of that let's make a cake, you have to remove the nous and become faisons un gâteau. Okay, for your information, faire is an irregular verb which you have already done. Now, in the second example, it works the same way. Okay, this is finir, so you conjugate it normally in present tense and it will work out like this. You want to say finish your homework to one person, finish your homework to a plural you, and let's finish the homework for a new subject, right? You're just conjugating it according to the subject and then you're removing the subject from the sentence. That is how the imperative works basically. Now, there is one exception that you need to take note of. Okay, look at this. Manger. Okay, it's a normal ER verb, GER. So, nous, you have to add the extra E. Besides that, it's a normal ER verb. So, tu manges, nous mangeons, vous mangez. This is the normal ER standard conjugation which you have done using the rules. Now, can you see the tu form here? If you're talking to one person tu, you want to tell that one person to eat the cake. So mange le gâteau. But look at the spelling of mange in the present. It is M-A-N-G-E-S. In the imperative, it is M-A-N-G-E. What has happened? The S has got deleted. Okay, so that is the only change that happens in the imperative in the tu form only for verbs ending with ER. Okay, you have to delete the last S in the tu form. So in the present, it is M-A-N-G-E-S. In the imperative, it is M-A-N-G-E. Knock off this last S will never appear in the imperative for the tu form. So mange le gâteau becomes eat the cake. The other two forms will follow the same rules as the present. So it's only for the tu form that you are deleting the S. Now, did you hear me when I said all verbs ending with ER drop the last S in the tu form in the imperative? I did not say ER verbs. Right? The difference in that is the ER verbs we talk about the regular family. Manger, parler, habiter. But there are also verbs. There is basically fundamentally there is just the one ER verb which is the exception, which is the irregular verb which is aller. Okay, so aller also follows that rule. In the present tense it is tu vas. So in the imperative, since it's ending with ER, in the tu form we drop the last S, we make it VA. Okay, va au magasin. If we talk to one person, telling one person to go to the shop, va au magasin with the VA and without an S. Okay, the other two forms remain the same. Aller and allons. Go for a plural and let's go will be allons. Okay, so just to repeat, all verbs ending with ER, whether they're irregular or irregular, drop the last S in the tu form when you're conjugating the imperative. Remember, this is only for the verbs ending with ER. Okay, you saw in the previous example, finir, the tu form ends with S, right? But we're not dropping it. Why? because it is an IR verb. Fair. The true form ends with S, but you don't drop it. Why? Because it ends with RE. Okay, so only verbs ending with ER will drop the last S in the true form. Now, a simple add-on to this is how do you negate the imperative sentence? You will follow the same pattern as your normal statement, your simple sentence. What is the pattern? You have to find the verb, ne before the verb, and pa after the verb. Okay, indefinite and partitive articles change into E. The definite articles remain as they are. Now, in this case, you don't have to make that much effort to find the verb because you know in an imperative sentence, the verb starts the sentence. So the verb is always going to be at the start of the sentence. You just have to put ne before it and pa after it. And then you'll have to, if there are any indefinites or participes, they have to change into de. Okay? So I'll do the first two for you and I want you to try the last two by yourself. So répondez aux questions is answer the question. This is the vous form of the imperative because there is no subject. So répondez becomes the verb. You'll have to place ne before, pas after. This O is an article contracté, so nothing happens to it. Okay, only indefinites and participes have to change. This is contracted article, nothing happens to it. So your answer will be ne répondez pas aux questions. Répondez aux questions, answer the questions. Ne répondez pas aux questions, don't answer the questions. Okay. Now, bois du thé chaque matin. Can you see that this is a true form here, but boire has written the S because boire ends with RE and not ER. Okay, so this becomes the verb. You will have to change, sorry, you will have to introduce now before, but after. Can you see this is a partitive article now for T? Okay, du is partitive, so it has to change into DE. We cannot have partitive articles in a negative sentence. So boire du thé chaque matin is drink tea every morning, drink some tea every morning. The negative of that would be ne bois pas du thé chaque matin. Don't drink any tea every morning. Okay, so that is in essence how you have to negate an imperative sentence. It's the same as your normal simple sentence except that you don't have a subject here. The verb starts the sentence, so the ne will start the negative imperative sentence since it comes before the verb. You can try these two. I'll give you a couple of seconds. Pause the video if you need to, and then you'll have the answers waiting for you. Thank you for watching this video. Hope you've understood the imperative tense because you will need it for the next lesson that is coming up, 7th lesson, les directions. For the 9th standards, you will need it for the 6th lesson from your textbook, which is à la plage. That video will also be posted for you shortly. Thank you.